All right, I got 7:02. Call the meeting to order. East Lyme Board of Finance, regular meeting, Wednesday, September 12th, 2018. I have to look at it, see what date it is. All rise for a pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You all had a different cadence tonight. That was weird. What? Seems like everybody had a different cadence tonight. All right. Delegations. Anybody in the audience that would like to come up and talk about any items that are currently on our agenda? Seeing none, we will close delegations. Item number 4, approval of the meeting minutes from August 12th, 2018.
A slight detail, very minor. The top of the minutes say August 8th.
No, I still don't have it.
Not a biggie, but
Where did they put it in?
I don't think she put it in here. No, this is all.
There they are. So
the
the
agenda's,
agenda's
I
wrong.
think it was the 12th. I think the 8th was a Monday.
So
But we can check that. They don't match, one or the other.
August 8th was a Wednesday.
Okay, so the agenda's wrong then.
So the agenda.
The agenda says regular meeting minutes of August 12th.
Okay.
Not a big deal. I
Of the
just,
agenda, but the meeting.
I must have looked up the wrong date, but I knew they didn't match.
Must be somewhere.
Yeah, some.
Okay. Any other comments about the meeting minutes from August 8th?
No.
Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the Board of Finance regular meeting of Wednesday, August 8th, 2018.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
Abstained.
Right.
So moved. 4-0-1. All right. Thank you. Reports, Board of Education.
I am just reporting out that the opening of school has gone well. Everything for the building project is coming along right on time, and that we have wrapped up teacher negotiations, and that it still needs to be ratified by the union and voted on by the board. And thank you for coming to our meeting. That's it. I don't have nothing.
Any questions?
So nothing on the school building project? Nothing's behind schedule?
And
Everything is spot
right
on?
on time. I think they're early in a couple spots too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 9 extenders ahead of schedule right now, which is great. We run into a few bugs here and there, but we were right on target with the start of the school year, which is great.
No concerns about the project? Everything's good so far?
Not as of right now, other than your typical small things, extra asbestos here, extra asbestos there, taken care of, but nothing major has jumped out, which
Okay,
is
great.
good.
That's it. Any questions for me?
So, for either of you, as far as the school project's concerned, there's been some concerns about the conditions of the schools with the kids in there. I'm sure you've got EH&S, health and safety people have gone through and verified that there's no unsafe conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. Mystic Air, we work with regularly. They're in there. There's air testing that's done. We have HEPA air filters that are running through. There's a lot of rumors that float around. Just people look at the conditions. I had one parent, we gave all the kids little hard hats, plastic hard hats at the start of the year, and a
Nice.
hammer pencil. And one of the parents had called and said, I'm concerned because my child has to wear a hard hat all day, every day for the rest of the year because he's in construction. So there's a lot of, misunderstandings. We try and clarify as much as we can, but no, there's barriers up, there's alarms, there's walls. Do we deal with a little bit of dust every once in a while? We do. Construction is going on in the building, but we're addressing it as it goes.
But floors are safe, walls are safe. you've got all
Absolutely.
that.
Fire Marshal Chris Taylor has done a great job working with us this year. He's been through. We had them there for the first couple days as well. Town Inspector Steve Way also was great to work with. So everything's been inspected. We're on target and things are moving along.
Okay.
And we continue to monitor and check though, because sometimes a door might get left open or something along those lines. Our campus security staff are there. They're going around the buildings and checking regularly as well. So we're main safety is of the most importance.
Just wanted to get it out.
Absolutely, no, thanks. I know there was some Facebook rumors floating around out there.
And we're on budget. We haven't had any expanded scope or field changes that have,
Nothing major by any way, shape, or form. We have a holdback list of items that actually at our next town building committee meeting, which will be on the 20th, next Thursday, we'll be reviewing and kind of going over that budget, and then we'll be reporting to the full Board of Education on the 24th, where we stand with our contingency dollars, both O&G, the construction companies, as well as our contingency dollars.
Okay.
great.
And the books are,
I wanted to share something with you. Just take a couple minutes. The end of last year, we created what I called a State of the District book.
Jamie.
Just to kind of, this is my 4th year as a superintendent in East Lyme, and those years have just gone by extremely fast. And there's a lot that has been accomplished and done in the last 3 years. So I just want an opportunity, every chance we get, we're kind of sharing this out with our community, with our boards. So I'm not going to go through every document in here. At your opportunity, you have a free time to peruse that at your leisure. But it kind of gives you a scope of the work over the last 3 years, and then some supporting documents behind each tab. The first one is major to curriculum. A lot of the changes that have occurred with hiring a new assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction and assessment 2 years ago has been a major scope of a lot of our work. Aligning our elementary schools as well. The 3 elementary schools used to be islands. Now they're all doing the same thing. They're on the same schedule. They're using the same curriculums. They're using the same assessments. That was not happening prior to. So we've done a lot of work there. And there's actually an elementary alignment tab, 3 tabs in, so you can take a look, at that. The second tab itself is all of our plans, our long-range plan, our 5-year long-range plan, which we developed and started year 1 last year, our district improvement plan, as well as each school has a school improvement plan. So that's really the core work under the umbrella of the 5-year long-range plan. So those documents are all in there. You can peruse. And if there's ever questions, you have my email address. I'm happy to respond or answer to them. We got some finance information in there as well, just where our budgets have been over the last 3 years. Our alteration plans with the elementary school, some work on the pool as well. Again, each page under the tab gives you a synopsis of the 3 years. And let's just highlight a couple other ones. Let's see, our central office reconfiguration, legal services and personnel under that tab. That's kind of where we had made some changes to reconfigure our central office, not adding any additional administrative staff. I know that comes up quite often. We have too many top people, but we've not changed that structure. We've just reorganized a lot to better serve our students and our work moving forward. So there's some information there. And then safety and security, the second to last tab. Just want to make mention of that. A few years back, we had greeters in each of our buildings. Very nice people. They wonderful. They met people at the door, families, parents. Over the last 2 years, we've moved to a design where we have campus and staff security members. A lot of individuals we've hired that are retired corrections or are former police, retired police, state police, or regular police, town police. They've been great. They are doing the same thing, but there's so much more vigilance we feel on walking around the building, monitoring people coming in and out. They have an eye for things that might be out of context or disorderly. They monitor. There's so much that we deal with in relation to parents that are divorced in divorce situations where parental rights, one has rights, one doesn't. That changes, so they take care of all those issues. So it's been great having them on board. And we have one at our central office this year as well, because we have 6 classrooms in that building this year with the renovations that are going on at Flanders. So that has really been a win-win. And I don't know if you remember, it was last year we were talking budget. That only cost us $9,000 more when we replaced the greeters with these campus and safety security members. So it's been a win-win. So happy to answer any questions now. I don't want to take too much time. I just wanted to share this document out. We've had a lot of hard work over the last 3 years, and we're proud of it, and just wanted to reflect that in a document, something tangible.
so if I look at the high school capital plan, what do you think I'm going to ask about?
If you look at the high school capital plan,
Yeah.
Well, that's probably, Bill, that's probably our next, once we get done with the elementary projects,
No,
which,
of the things that you have listed right now for capital for the high school,
well, there's nothing major in that building. Outside of some brick work, repointing that we found, we have not done a full assessment on that building. That's something actually last year, at the end of the year, we talked with the town about possibly could they do something for us to give us an estimate, Bill Shear and engineers. It's a huge job and it's expensive. We've not done that yet, so I can't say anything specific that stands out as a major issue. I don't have any major issues with that building. The pool was one with the dehumidification system, but we got that taken care of this summer. So there's nothing that's jumping out as a major fix
okay.
at the high school. You seeing something?
One of these things I've heard conversations about on this board many, many, many times is the turf field.
Is the what field?
The turf?
The turf field.
What
Okay.
about the turf field? What do you mean?
Is there,
That hasn't come up. I haven't heard that
Can you
ever.
familiarize me with that issue?
I was surprised to see that you still don't have a line item for it. That you don't still have a couple of $100,000 a year or something to start building an asset that's gonna take care of that.
Well, we are we're in the process of starting to talk about that. So it's come up a couple of years in a row. Where's the money coming from? There's a lot of back and forth with, is it the Board of Ed's responsibility? Is it the town and community's responsibility? Is it a shared responsibility? I think it's something that we have to work towards. That field is now, I think, 7 or 8 years old. Maybe I think it's 7 or 8 years old, or close to that. So it's got a life expectancy of 20 years. I'm not saying that we've got a lot of time, but we have some time to continue to work towards that. Put in a new field, it's $500,000. So that's something we've got to continue to work on.
So when should we have the conversation about who owns it and what we're gonna do about it?
Well, I would say, Lisa, coming up in the next budget cycle, you're going to see some work that we're going to be talking with the town about. Actually, Mr. Nickerson and myself, we're meeting Monday. We're going to talk a little bit. That's one of our agenda items. And we'll see how we can begin to try and, fund some of that or start building a reserve for some of that.
That's
So.
kind of what I think we're looking
Yeah.
for, is just
Yeah.
to see that, okay, the idea, we all know who's gonna pay for it, because there's only one tax bill that everybody gets in their house. Everybody doesn't get 2 tax bills.
Exactly.
And the capital ends up coming off its, so how it gets book kept is, I didn't like it when my boss used to say mildly interesting, but it's really only mildly interesting how it gets book kept, but it
Yeah.
just needs to be book kept somewhere. And if it means starting 10 years from now, we're gonna start putting 100,000 a year for 5 years, and that's gonna get us $500,000, as long as there's something. I don't mean to belittle how much effort's in this, obviously, there's a
No,
lot of thought in it.
Absolutely.
I just know
It's-
what's been a sticking point in the past.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
that's prevention's worth a pound a year.
I think we gotta design that, and we gotta do it, and we gotta do it right. So, it's a fund, and it doesn't get touched, and it's specific for, the turf field. Whether that fund is on the town side or on the Board of Ed side, that's to be determined.
Would you be willing to commit to some time in the next several months to having an item on our agenda to talk about this specifically? And you can come prepared. I don't mean tomorrow, I just mean a date in the future that we could work towards, so that it's not some amorphous, we're gonna talk about it thing, but we actually have a goal.
What I would need to do first is I would need to have a conversation with our Board of Education on that topic first, and let the board decide with me as to, how we want to proceed. I would not want to circumvent
okay.
then and come to the Board of Finance with
I'm
something, so.
Good with that.
That would have to happen first.
And you don't want to circumvent the first selectman, and clearly he's going to be
Exactly.
part of the conversation.
Yes.
I
So.
think no.
So would it be reasonable to think that we, by January?
I'm not gonna, I can't give a date, Lisa. I don't know.
Well, I'm
I guess
just,
I would.
I mean, it's
would-
3
I would
months
hope,
away,
But
so-
it's not, we've got a lot of topics right now at the board level that we've got to address, especially with the elementary school projects going on.
How
we'll
about
get-
February?
We'll figure something out. I'll talk with the town and we'll see what we can maybe
Okay.
we can figure out. I don't want to give a date
All right, so how about
now.
this? How about for the next meeting, you come back with a date? You don't have to
I-
commit tonight, but you can go back and see when it's reasonable, and even if you say June, whatever it is, at least we have a plan.
I'll tell you what, I'll make an effort to see I'll bring it up with our Board of Education. How's that? We'll see what we can do. All All
You
right.
can be confident that it's going to come up frequently.
And that's fine, absolutely. And we expect it every time.
Okay.
So we get it. It's something we got to work on, just like the capital improvement plan items. There's other items too outside the turf field that we need to
Yes.
continue to work on.
Absolutely.
So a lot of
Absolutely.
items that we have coming
On a
forward.
quick positive, the curriculum, the fact that the 3 schools were not all on, I'm not going to say same page, but under the same curriculum, it's great to hear that they are all focused on the same thing, and you have a overall global perspective of what you're teaching in the
It's a
3 different schools.
big
Which is good
change.
to hear.
It was
I mean,
amazing
that's-
'cause
That's
kids-
yeah.
Yeah, kids would go on to the middle school, and the middle school staff could always say, "Oh, that's an elementary. You're a Haynes student.
You're
That's a
right,
Nyack Center
yeah,
student. That's a Flanders."
absolutely. I
They were also
could see
different.
that,
So,
yeah.
yeah. But any
Any other
questions?
questions?
Feel free to.
Yes. Can you just briefly acquaint me with what you mean by the 5-year, I think it's called a 5-year long-range plan? I'm always thinking about that in terms of facilities, but that's not what you mean by it, right?
No, that's not
So
facilities.
what is the long-range plan?
So what we did was, if you turn to that tab, the
there
second
a tab?
second tab in,
District,
couple pages in, you'll see this
Recovery
shell on it.
plans.
The red, this right here.
Okay.
That is the
Oh,
long-range,
okay.
five-year, yeah.
I
that's-
can read it.
That's the document
I
right
didn't know
there.
it was in here, and I really didn't know what the heck you were talking about.
Yes,
Got
there's
it.
3 main goals in there, and you'll see those outlined over the next 4 years now, because we're in year 2.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Okay.
No problem.
And was there any feedback from the meetings that the Board of Finance members went to for the Board of Ed negotiations? Is there anything to share?
Do you have anything you want to say? So, it was good to be there. It was good to be,
Thank you for
talking
coming.
with you guys, yeah.
We appreciate that.
So, but I a little bit felt like it was the horse after the barn door closed, because the teacher negotiations were all done. And maybe I suffered from a misconception. I could have. I just thought,
Well, yeah, I mean, we had pushed that out back in, I think it was the summer.
I guess I didn't
To see
understand
if
that.
you wanted to partake. We didn't, nobody had attended the first
Okay,
couple
guilty.
meetings. We're under a timeline. It's so
yeah,
much
well,
different.
I don't expect you to revolve that around our schedules. I guess I just didn't understand that was taking place. And I thought that this would be more a participatory process, because we haven't done it before, so I wasn't exactly sure what to expect.
At the last teacher negotiations, sorry, Steve, Harvey, and Camille showed up for those meetings
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
They were at all of those meetings. So we were used to a Board of Finance member being there, and this
Okay.
year, you guys came on the last day.
So just for future reference, sending me an email a day or 2 days before the meeting's being held sometimes can be difficult, right? I mean, I got the request, both the first meeting and this meeting with very short notice. So if you could give me a little more heads up, then it's more likely that we'd be able to attend.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So one more thing about that, just briefly. We talked about the insurance issue, right, at that meeting? A lot?
Yeah, just be careful because we can't divulge any information publicly because that's not ratified yet.
Oh, all right.
So I just want to be careful what we talk on a global perspective, but we can't share any information yet.
Okay. I'll withdraw the comment.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks.
Jamie.
Thank you.
Good to
And
see you.
if you are gonna leave, we do have another agenda item on here that we have to set up for item 6B. We talked about setting up a kind of working meeting to talk about the long-term acquisition plan. So you and I need to set a date far enough in the future that we can have some people attend.
That's the one, that's, what you're talking about is,
Oh, no, this is more about the budget process. Yeah, that's right.
okay, the time, okay.
Jeff
First
asked-
time where it came out this year that
But
we
it-
couldn't buy things at the beginning of our,
But it doesn't.
or
No,
anticipation
that-
at the beginning of our year.
Yep.
No, what
Because
he's
there's some
talking
questions.
about, what Bill is talking about is the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed to meet to discuss the budget process, to have a working budget meeting, so,
That's different.
During the Board of Ed's presentation to the Budget Council, or to us last year, you said it would be helpful to the Board of Ed if the Board of Finance came to a Board of Ed meeting late in December, in
Yes, we
October,
invited you
November,
last year.
December.
Correct.
And just talk about how we do our process.
Right, that was
Yeah,
Eric.
we have 2 workshops a year.
So that's what this item here was for us to talk about when a good time it would be to have that conversation about when can the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed get together and just kind of talk about the budget process.
Remember when Eric
think-
Bauman came to the meeting?
Yeah, I think that's different from what
Yes,
this
it
is.
is.
Correct.
But,
Yes.
Bill, when we set our dates, just like I did last year, when we set our workshop dates, one will be at the end of October, early November, and the second one will be at the end of December. We will invite you to attend as we did last year. And we hope they'll come and hear, that's where we work with the Board of Education, just around what our thoughts are on budget requests for the 2019-2020 school year. That's kind of our kickoff.
And do you have that date yet?
No, not yet. Those have not been set yet.
Okay.
So,
So if you
as soon
could-
as they're set,
If you could tee that up as soon as possible, then we'll try to get as much attendance as we can.
great.
And I guess I have to find out how many people can attend before it starts becoming an informal meeting.
Yeah, we
have
gotta
to
be careful
publish an
there.
agenda and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you take minutes and post for that meeting, or is that a workshop? What's the? I
We
know
do.
Board of Ed works
Yeah,
differently than.
it's a committee, we call it a committee of the whole meeting. So it's not an actual Board of Ed meeting. There's informal minutes, but it's not an official, it's a public meeting, yes.
So
Public
anybody
meeting.
can attend.
So maybe no noticing.
Exactly, it has an agenda,
Notice.
yes.
The agenda that he published back for the first workshop that you were gonna go to,
Mhm.
it said that it was a Board of Ed, Board of Finance meeting. And if it was, then we would have to have a certain quorum there, and we'd have to have minutes published and things like that.
No
If I may,
proper
Mr. Chair, I
notice.
think there may be two different discussions, two different ideas, because we've got to let the Board of Ed have their workshop and create their budget. And then you folks need to have input to that, or at least review it, or give your comments to that workshop before it gets to the formal stage. I think that was Eric's point.
Right.
But I'm wondering if we get involved too early, especially that first one, if we're not in the way of them creating a budget, because it's just a blank piece of paper sitting there. I
But
wonder.
I think, my personal opinion is, it would be great if some board members, but I'd like to be part of that some board members, to get in there and say, listen, here's the last 6 months, 6 years of budget, here's what the town's doing, very loud, here's the Board of Ed doing this, we need to try to see how we can get the two of them to have the same curve.
But
And
it's-
start having some of that conversation about because some of the questions were, we don't know what the target is. We think we did good because our growth was less than our growth was last year. So that's good. If the
Yeah.
growth is less than the growth last year, I guess by that standard, it's better than more growth, but it's not zero growth. And that's kind of, the whole argument we always get in is we're told we took money away from your budget. It's like, well, no, your budget still grew. We didn't take money away. It just didn't grow as much as you wanted it to.
Yeah.
And
And-
it's that kind of conversation. It's just people
Understand.
sitting around in a room having this kind of deep down inside philosophical, what I believe, what you believe, and just having a conversation.
And what we would like out of that is for you all to understand, how that budget's developed, why and where we are with contracts, and how we're obligated for increases. I think there's some misperceptions as to, when we formulate our budget, how and why those numbers, come to fruition. So working together, I think that's a
Yes.
good thing, and that's where I think Eric Bauman and where we were coming from on our side.
Yes.
So,
So
happy to talk.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
there's always misconceptions.
Yeah,
It's-
that's what we're trying to avoid and work more collaboratively
It's human
on.
nature.
So
We all look at things through our own prisms and our own
Yeah.
perspective, and that's just the way that people work.
exactly.
Okay.
Thanks for these books, this is great.
You're
Any
welcome.
other
Thank
questions
you.
for the Board of
Good
Ed?
effort.
No.
No, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Jeff.
Okay. Have a nice evening.
Mr. First Selectman.
I'm gonna let them leave the room first before I bring this up.
She's with the Board of Ed, I don't know what.
So maybe your answer to the raising money for the turf field, which I'm still confused why this board is so focused on that, is to put a CNRE together like we do in the town for our roofs, for our HVAC, for our sidewalks, and budget for it. And when the budget's getting tighter and such, that's the first thing that gets cut. But you got 20 years to raise this money, and even if you get close, like we do with reval, we're trying to put money away. But let's face it, on the year of reval, we're going to have a $200,000 or $300,000 makeup bill that we're going to have. But we've gotten halfway there, which is wonderful. We have every third year, we have to buy a fire truck in this town of no less than $500,000, but we don't put money away for that. But it's a $500,000 turf field every 20 years.
Well, we're talking essential though, right? We're talking essential fire trucks versus
Well,
discretionary
essential
turf
ball
fields.
fields. Essential.
It's not necessary. It's preferred. I mean, there is a difference between the two.
So,
I'm not sure.
It-
We can argue that over
So-
coffee some point, but I
We
mean,
can
you need to have.
discuss it. I don't want to
Do
argue
you,
it.
do you get rid of sports in high schools? Is that
So-
necessary or not?
I think the answer to your question is, when I first heard about this turf field, some of the board members said, when this field was presented to the board,
Raise money.
we're also gonna raise money. So the question is, are you guys raising money?
No, they're not.
And that's why it just keeps coming up.
They fell flat on their
That's-
face.
But that's why it keeps coming up.
That's right.
Your question was, why does it keep coming up? And
That's why it keeps coming up.
Because if somebody tells you something, you expect them to do it. So that's why I just kind of
I
want
know.
to keep it out there. And it just means on an Excel spreadsheet, somebody's going to put it there, and then every year it's going to move where it's going to move, and that's what everything on the budget does. Understood.
We gotta buy 2 fire trucks next year, by the way.
Do.
Sure. We put them off for too long. So that's coming up. A Costco update, where, as you know, they're coming. I'm 99.9% sure that they're going to build here. They call every day into our departments for updates on building permits and all the things that they need. We're expecting the building permit to come in on October 2nd with the fees. I'll even be 99.9% sure that day because things can still happen. That's going along. We expect an opening. We had a meeting in this room with all the department heads and people flying in from, they weren't from Kirkland, Washington, but they came in from Washington, D.C. area where their East Coast operation exists. And very detailed. They know on day 83, this is how far they're going to be built. Day 87, we're going to put the sign up. We're going to start stocking the store on day 90, and on day 101, we will be open. They virtually are booking their grand opening party already, so they're very, very focused and detailed, and it's impressive to see that kind of operation come in. The schools, as you heard, the schools are being updated. The town is very involved with that, between the building department and fire and safety, the fire marshal's office, and public safety with the police. They've been all involved with the opening of the schools and the continuation of, construction is shifting and what happens to the kids and what happens to the fire exits, and is everything safe? So they're in the schools almost every day. Main Street is being prepared to be repaved. Be prepared for that, from the bridge all the way to the old Lyme border, really the Rocky Neck connector for this year. Main Street itself, the Main Street Niantic downtown, will be done on evening hours, so not to disrupt commerce during the day. It'll be a 24-hour project. There are people that live down there. I'm concerned about that, but it'll be an evening hour project. The rest of it will be milled and then repaved, and it's going to be a significant job. As you know, we took out some parking at the end of the park. That is not a town project. That's a state project. When you have to pull out of a parking space into a state road, that's a no-no, and that's been allowed for many years, even though there were no parking signs there. That has been taken away, and there was a little chatter about that. We've been able to negotiate with the state
Where are
to
you
put
talking? I'm sorry.
across from the Morton House.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There was some parking on gravel
Yeah,
that
right,
was
I know
left
what you mean.
for, and actually we scaled back the park by maybe 10 spaces to try to allow for parking to be there. And
Who owns
we
that
got
property?
the state.
Okay.
The state, and actually the state, it runs into the railroad property as well, kind of halfway through that parking space. But the bottom line is we'll have parallel parking there for about 5 cars. That's happening. Saunders Point is a town project, as you know, and that's being prepared. It's supposed to start today, but of course this rain, my gosh, this rain. I think we're going to have the paving company show up on Friday. It's not going to start Saunders Point until Monday, but we have 12 other streets we'll be doing in town, 12 plus streets. I've talked to this commission before, but I'm getting to the point where I'm going to be making a public announcement pretty soon about the need for a police station. What we have grossly is underserves us. It's a need, not a want. Today, we had rising water in the building of inches, not dampness, but inches, rising up from the ground. Not through a door, but through the ground. When it rains, it comes in through the wall. We've patched the roof. We need to replace the roof. It's not the only problem in that building. It's too small. It doesn't have our jails. It doesn't have our dispatch. It's not a 24-hour police station. You're going to hear all the arguments why that doesn't adequately serve us. It's not big enough for the police we have now, never mind the police we need and should have. And we'll hear more about that in the coming months. I'm hopefully going to be making an announcement in the next 30 days about the plan. So be prepared for that, so it's not thrust upon you. It's something we've been working on for a while, but it's something that we put the police in 14 years ago as a temporary situation, knowing it was inadequate then. And certainly policing has come a long way. The East Lyme Police Department has come a long, long way since then. Oyster Fest will be October 6th behind St. John's, in the field behind there. We're going to raise money for the Miracle League. It's going to be our first annual Oyster Fest. We hope to make this an annual event where there'll be oysters, and it'll be sponsored by Guinness Beer. It'll be a off-town property, so we'll be able to. Partly, yeah. There'll be a lot of sponsors, I promise. But we're going to be raising money for